I know it's been like 2 days, but welcome to daily scripting, day 16. Let's get right into it. You'll notice one thing as I joined, that I don't have the katana immediately welded to me. So I've made a drop-down menu, and this menu is where you can select what weapons you want to choose. So you'll see that not only is the katana an option, but the greatsword is also now an option. It's not fully done yet, but it's an option, and you can select it like such. It has a walking animation, which I think I need to fix. It doesn't look too good. But yeah. Let me reload back in and let me select the katana just to show you that it works as well. So they load different animations. So this one has a different walk animation than the greatsword, obviously. And you'll see how this is done when I explain the code in a second. Also, one quick problem. I'm trying to make it so that when you select a new weapon after already equipping one, it deletes your old weapon completely, as well as the welds associated with it. But that unfortunately is not working, and it's been really weird because it's working with the katana. The katana is deleting, right? It's not here. If I check under the workspace, under people, under J alt, the katana is not here. It's only the greatsword and the sheath. Even though in the script I have it destroy weapon welds. I have it loop through your character and destroy all the weapon welds that it finds. But for some reason, when it loops through your character and it looks for weapon welds, it doesn't find any. I don't know why this is happening, but aside from that, let me explain the actual code. My coding style has started to get a little cleaner with the use of functions rather than copy and pasting code that just takes up a bunch of lines. So I'm using a lot more functions. I have a couple functions that should probably go into modules, and some functions that are core to this script. So this function, create a motor 6D, it needs 3 parameters, right? It needs the first part that you want to weld to, the second part that you want to have the weld, and then the C-frame details of that weld. It takes these parameters, makes a motor 6D out of it, and returns it. Okay. Next function creates an int value. It needs 2 parameters. It needs the parent, like where it's going, and needs a name. It just creates an int value, sets the parent to the parent parameter, sets the name to the name parameter, and it returns int value. The next one is like generally the same thing, and then weld. Now this is where all the actual welding happens. So to explain this, I have to explain another part. So you'll see the script readme at the top. This is top bar plus, and it's pretty much just like an open source module that creates a Roblox icon at the top of your screen. I created that all using the open source module, and this is basically the open source module that you'll see any Battlegrounds game use. And so I have it so that when you click any option in the drop down menu, it fires to the remote event equip, and when this remote event is fired, it essentially does all the welding stuff. Okay. To explain this, I also have to go back further. When this fires, it passes a bunch of information, okay? If you select katana, it passes your 2 weapons, and it passes the details of your weld for the first weapon and the details of your weld for the second weapon. This is the information it passes, okay? So now, when we get here, this remote event makes use of all of that information to basically create a very general, flexible code that does everything. So first of all, it creates details, right? It takes all this information and it makes it physical instanced information under your player. So if I go here and I click weapons, you'll see that in my player, there's a folder called weapon details, and in that is all the details for the weapon I equipped. We have the C01. This is where the weld for the katana goes. This is what like makes the katana weld in a specific position to my hand, and this is what makes the sheath weld to a specific position in my hand. And this is the katana, right? This is just to let it know what weapons I have. I have the katana and I have the sheath. Now that it has that, right? Once you click it, it loads your character. It's sort of like a reset, except it doesn't kill you. It just loads your character. And this allows me to use the character added function. Every time your character gets reloaded, it'll basically re-weld it to your player. What re-weld does. Okay, wait. Okay. Oh my god, I have to go so back. This code gets like complicated. Okay, so re-weld, right? If the number of things in your weapon details folder is 0, basically if there's nothing in your weapons detail folder, then it returns. And because you have no weapon data, it doesn't do anything, and it doesn't have to re-weld anything back to you, right? Because look, if I'm in and I just reset my character, it doesn't do anything because I never had any weapon data. If you do have weapon data, right, if you do have stuff under your weapons detail folder or weapon details folder, then that's when it actually gets to welding stuff. So first of all, it destroys the original animate script under your character. This animate script under your character by default is just the Roblox animations. So when that gets destroyed, you basically don't have the default Roblox animations anymore, and that allows me to replace it. Next, I have it locate the folder where all of your weapon details are stored, right? The one that we created earlier. I have it loop through the weapon details folder. It basically checks to find the information, and it sets that information. That's so that we can pass all of these parameters into the weld function, which I'm about to get to. This doesn't work for some reason. Next we have this. This basically just clones the new animations into your character. So under animate scripts, I have two different folders. I have the greatsword and the katana. Both of them have different sets of animations. So after we destroy your original animation set, it adds these animations instead, which replaces them. Next, after we've basically set all of our information by looking at the weapon details folder, we can pass it into the weld function. Now we're finally here at the weld function. Alright, what the weld function does is first, it clones the weapon from replicated storage, and it puts that weapon under your character. Okay, so how I set it up is, if you don't have a second weapon, right, because not all weapons will have two like things to weld to you, right? If you don't have a second weapon, then I just assign it as nil. And this might actually be the source of the problem. I might have to investigate that. But that just assigns it as nil. So if it's not nil, right, that means you do have a second weapon. And so if you do have a second weapon, then it clones the second weapon and it welds it to your player character. Next, this makes motor 6Ds. As I explained before, I have these functions at the top, which I use. This one, once again, it just creates a motor 6D, so I just pass the parameters into it, and it creates motor 6Ds, 1 for the first weapon and 2 for the second weapon, if you have it. If you die, I also want it to re-weld it, right? So yeah, when you die, it fires a remote event on the local player. I'll pull up that script now. So you have a starter character script, it's called death, and every time you die, it just fires that you died. It just fires to the server. And then yeah, this just runs every time it gets fired. It continually waits until the player's health is 100 before welding the player. This is so that we aren't welding it while they're respawning, because that could cause some like weird bugs. But essentially you got the point. We'll see if it works. So if I pick katana, right, I have the katana and I reset, it re-welds it and we have it. So yeah, it works. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'd say this is the biggest framework I've made. It's the longest code I've written for sure. I really like the way I set it up though. I used a lot of functions to save lines. But yeah, once again, main problem I'm trying to fix is when you select a weapon from the drop down menu and you try to switch to another weapon, it doesn't delete the sheath. I don't know why. It definitely has something to do with the fact that I'm passing nil as an argument for a second weapon. It must do something. I don't know. But yeah, thanks for watching. Quick editor's note, thank you for reminding me. I'm gonna be making a Discord server. I'll drop the link down below in the next video actually, because I gotta like prepare it. So like I can't just drop it right now. But yeah, I'll make a server so that, you know, if I have any questions or something, or like if anyone has questions, we can work on them together.